Hi, welcome to Chats with Flo. I give self-improvement advice for your everyday life. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, one of my friends asked me if I would do another video about step parenting. And I looked at some of my previous videos and trying to see, okay, what haven't I discussed about being a step parent? But then once I looked at some of my other videos, I realized that I really didn't go as deep into details. So in this video, I'm going to share 4 tips with you of how to be a good step parent. I'm also going to share some of my struggles or some of my experiences and how I overcame them. So make sure you stick around and watch the full video. Being a good step parent, it doesn't come easy, but you can do it if you want to. It's all about your behavior and the choices that you make. And also it have to do with what the outcome that you want in the long run. Before my husband and I got married, I build a relationship with my stepchildren, and how I build a relationship with them is by being around them. I was around them more than I was even with him. And so the reason why it's so important to do that when you are dating someone with children is because that you want to know what it's going to be like to be around them on a daily basis and whether or not if you can step into that role. So it's real important to spend as much time with the person that you are dating children, especially if they are really young. When I became pregnant, I remember I was so excited because it was my first child and I never experienced anything like that. But even though I was excited, I can remember being afraid. And the reason why I was afraid because I thought about, okay, how that I have developed a good relationship with my stepchildren, and now I'm getting ready to have my own child. And I didn't want it to be a difference between them. And you may wonder why in the world would you think about that and you haven't even had your child yet? But I knew that it could easily be an issue because in a lot of cases it is. So I can remember praying to God and asking him to help me to not to treat my stepchildren different from my biological child. I desired in my heart to where I didn't want it to be a difference. And of course, I know it is different once you have your own child. I knew that it would be some difference in their upbringing because of the fact that each parent have a different style of parenting. We all have our own way. Being a step parent can be more difficult when you got involved in a relationship and you didn't have any children, and then later you decide to have a child. Because I think what make it even more difficult, because I think it will be easier if you are a step parent and you already have children as well, and so you guys came together and you just blended your families together from the beginning. Once you recognize that something could be an issue, don't wait for it to happen. Try to prevent it from happening. So what I did is I prayed and I told God to help me to continue to care for the needs of my stepchildren and to help me to continue to be loving towards them. Tip number 1, treat your stepchildren and your biological children the same. Don't make a difference between them. If you make a difference between your stepchildren and your biological children, they're going to end up resenting each other, and they will also resent you as well. Your main goal is that you want them to be close. You want all your kids to be close, and you also want them to be close to you. A lot of adults don't realize it, but kids do remember the way you treated them. I have seen some cases to where you could tell the difference between the biological children and the stepchildren. I mean, it was one of those things where it was obvious. The same way that you desire to meet the needs of your biological children, you want to continue to desire to meet the needs of your stepchildren. And I want to say this to where if you don't desire to meet their needs or don't care about their needs, then that is a problem. That's a red flag that you need to do something about your behavior. It's one of those things where I would even say this. You volunteered and you stepped into that role as a step parent. No one made you do it. I mentioned earlier in this video about your behavior. Now that's one thing that we do have control of our behavior. And it's even not about what you want to do or how you feel emotionally. It's more about doing the right thing. If you start doing the right thing, eventually it's going to get in your heart. And then you won't have to force yourself to do it. It will come naturally. Tip number 2. Don't show partiality. Have the same rules for all of your children. And I know that it could be difficult to have the same rules if your stepchildren ages are totally different from your biological children. For instance, let's say if your stepchildren are teenagers, or let's just say if they're 10 years old on up and your biological children are toddlers. Yes, the rules are going to be a little different because it's different needs and it's different rules that's appropriate for certain ages. Let's just say within your household when it comes to eating, and you allow your biological kids like to have certain snacks, certain treats. You know, you let them choose what they want, but then with your stepchildren, you tell them no, you can't have any. Then yet you allow your biological child to have it. That's wrong. And then not only is it wrong, you are sending your biological children and your stepchildren the wrong message. You're telling them that this person can do it, but then you can't. And you're like, that's what showing partiality means. Trying to be strict on one child, and then on the other child, you let them get away with certain things. That's wrong. And that's the wrong example for your children. So when it comes to showing partiality, the main thing is to be fair. And it will look really bad, let's say, if your biological children and your stepchildren is around the same age. And let's just say when it's bedtime, you make the stepchildren go to bed earlier and you let your biological kids stay up later. Just things like that. I mean, it's wrong. Let's say if you are at a store and you're getting ready to buy your children some clothes, some shoes, or whatever it can be, or maybe even a toy, and your stepchildren are with you and they want something too, but you don't have enough money. I mean, it's one of those things to where you want to be fair. If you don't have enough money to buy for all, don't buy for no one. Don't be judgmental towards your stepchildren. Don't focus on their negative behavior all the time, their negative characteristics. I mean, that's something easy to do. So the same way with your biological children, hopefully you're not one of those parents that always focus on something that they did wrong. But instead, you want to focus on the good. You want to bring out their good characteristics, and you want your children to feel good about themselves. So you want to do the same thing. Focus on their good points. Always encourage them. Ask God to help you to love your stepchildren. And it may sound a little crazy. You may wonder, okay, why should I ask God to help me to love my stepchildren? Because it's important. And the reason why I think that as a step parent, every so often you may want to pray that, because so you want to be concerned about that. You want to be able to genuinely love your stepchildren. They should be able to feel love when they're around you. I can say one of my main desires when I was raising my children is that I wanted them all to be close, and I didn't want it to be a difference in them. So the only way that that could happen is that I had to start out not showing a difference. When we all were together, I spent time with all of them. I enjoyed all of them. And I can say that things turn out the way I wanted to. All of our kids are close. I never did tell my biological children that this is your stepsister or your stepbrother. That was never said. And to be honest, I can say that like when I'm doing these videos and talking about step-parent and things like that, I don't feel comfortable with calling my stepchildren because I consider them as mine. So if you are struggling with loving your stepkids, ask God for his help. And not only ask God, because the way God works, he helps those who help themselves. For instance, like in order for him to help you to be a good step parent, first you got to put in the work. And you put in the work by changing your behavior towards your stepchildren, treating them with love and respect, treating them the way that you want someone else to treat your biological children. If you are struggling in the area of being a good step parent, leave me a comment at the bottom. Or if you are a good step parent, leave me a comment at the bottom. Thank you for tuning in to Chats with Flo. Have an awesome day. Bye.